When they come into Optical, there are two things that are taking place. They're going to pick up a frame and they're going to pick out lenses, and they're going to have an RX. Now, the RX that the doctor has assigned to this patient to basically say, hey, here's your new prescription, that's being sent to you guys automatically. So you're never going to have to go in and look for it and type it in. That RX is automatically being sent over to you. What we're going to learn today is how do we create an order with that RX and send it to a lab? If a patient has a frame that they're purchasing, how do we get that frame purchased and dispense it from inventory? I am not going to use these examples in your live database today for two reasons. I don't want to mess up your inventory because I'm sure that there's a lick of you there that would kill me, and because I don't want to mess up the conversion and then my development manager would kill me. So I'm just going to stick in our demo database today and you guys will get to drive and go through it. Now, in Optical, do you guys take any payments or do you send them all up to the front desk?
Usually to the front desk.
Perfect. Okay. So there are three. So let's just kind of, I'm going to ask a few questions just to, because every Optical is a little bit different. When a patient comes back to Optical, they may get a frame only, right? Like, let's just say someone walks in off the street, they don't want lenses, they just want a frame with the demo lenses in it. Does that go through Optical, or do they pick that up and send them to the front desk to check out?
It goes through Optical.
Goes through Optical. Okay, perfect. And then would you guys take payment for that, or would you get everything set up and then they would pay with front desk?
They'd pay at front desk.
Okay, awesome. Always pay at front desk? Okay, good. Then they come in and they have a frame and lenses. So obviously that's at Optical, pay at front desk. Is there ever a time that a patient would come in and get or purchase something through Optical that is not a frame off the board and is not lenses? Like if they got vitamins or contact lenses, all that, does that go through Optical ever, or is that always the front desk?
That's front desk.
Okay, perfect. So we only have two different types of orders, and the questions will probably make sense when we get started. So as you guys know, you'll get logged into the system here. The first example that I'm going to do is an easy one. This is going to be the example where a patient walks in and they are just getting a frame off the board. So they weren't seen by the doctor. They don't have a prescription. They just want a frame. The very first thing I have to tell you is that any time that you are doing a purchase through the system, that person that's making the purchase has to be built in the database. So there's two things that can happen here. Number one, if Morgan Cooper, like I'm from Sioux Falls, I walk in on Monday and I want to just get a frame off the board. You have two options. You can either add me as a patient with my name, address, phone number, and date of birth, or you can set up a test patient, like a pretend patient in the background, where all of those onesie, twosie things can live. It's up to you how you want to track that. Right now, how often does that happen where someone just comes in and purchases, and this could be a frame only, it could be any retail item. Does that happen very often? And if so, how do you handle it?
Well, if they're coming over to get frame only, it's usually sunglasses. So we probably put the patient in the system.
Good. Okay. And that's what I will encourage you to do. Does everybody know how to do that?
Add patients to the system?
Yep.
No.
So do you need to learn how to do that, or will that happen at the front desk?
They should, if they come in new, they probably add it at the front desk because they usually check everybody in there.
Perfect. That's wonderful. Okay. So we will make sure that that happens on that side. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is that we always start going into the patient's account. So up at the top left, the little patient icon, we're going to click on that, and we can search for the patient two ways. We either double click in the patient account number field, which is this white box here, or we click on this patient search button, which is the little man with the magnifying glass. It doesn't matter which one you click. If you double click or hit the little man with the magnifying glass, the same screen will always pop up. This is the patient search screen. You can search by name, address, phone number, policy number, date of birth, city, social, whatever fields in here you want to search by, you can. So I'm going to find Morgan FoxFire and I'm going to double click. So what you're going to see is that there's a series of red fields on the left. There's a demographics, an orders, a transactions, and a documents. You guys are going to concentrate on the orders section. So when you have the patient pulled up, which I know because I can see it at the top left, I'm going to click on orders. Now all orders within the system live within this section, and they're broken down by payment or by patient and by type of order. So the first 4 buttons on the top left are viewing. Do you want to view all orders? Do you want to view quick orders, frame only, or quotes? And I'm going to talk about what every single one of those are in a second. Patient order is where you go to add a new order. So let's talk about the difference between these orders. Quick orders are anything that does not have to do with optical. So this person who's getting a quick order, this will include maybe doctor charges, their refraction and their exam, contact lenses, retail items. It does not include frames. It does not include lenses. Quick orders are going to be completed by the front desk. So you guys will never, in optical, you won't use quick orders ever. The 2 types that you guys are going to be using are frame only and quote. So I'm going to click down on frame only. Frame only is what it sounds like. Frame only means there's a frame, but there's no lenses. So a patient comes and they just pick a frame up off the board and they don't have an RX, they don't want lenses, they just want to purchase the frame and you need to dispense it from inventory. Now with a frame only order, if they wanted to purchase a case or cleaner or whatever else on top of it, they can. You can add additional things on top of that, which front desk has learned how to attach. So if a patient were to see the doctor and just pick out a frame and not get any lenses today, you can still add a frame only and then the front desk will take care of the rest. A quote then, this is probably the most common type you're going to do. This is the one where a patient comes in and they either have an RX that they've brought in from another provider, or they were seen by the doctor and they have a new prescription to fill. This is the section or type of order that will send a lab order. For a quote, they could either have their own frame. So if I liked the frame I had, I just needed to replace my new lenses. You can free type frame information in here, or I can select from my inventory and dispense it. So those are the types we're going to talk about. The very first one, like I said, is the patient that comes in and they just want a frame. They didn't get seen by the doctor. They don't have an RX. So what we're going to do to create a new order is we're going to click on the patient order button.
Hey, Morgan.
Yep, hi.
Hey, just real quick. So does that include like Plano sunglasses?
Yes, on the frame. Yep. So this is going to be if that pair of sunglasses is on or is in inventory and we need to dispense it, that will be a frame only. Yes. Great question. So far we've searched for the patient and we went to the orders button, and to add a new order from scratch, we click on the patient order button on the left, and this is what an order screen looks like. Now regardless of what type of order you create, the order screen always looks the same. What's different is what you can fill out and what you can't. So to start, we're going to hit the blue plus sign in the middle of the screen to add a new order. We tell the system we want to add a new order, and it's going to ask us which type of order are you wanting to select or create. It's asking us this so it can prep the type of order form that we can fill out. Of course, if we were to do a frame-only order, we wouldn't fill out any lenses or any RX information. If we did a quick order, this whole first page would be invalid. So what we're going to do, because they're getting just a frame off the board, is we're selecting a frame-only order because we don't have any lenses. When I'm ready, I hit the green check mark. So I'm going to kind of pause here and see if we have any questions so far about searching for a patient, getting to the order section and adding a new order.
So you can go into frame only on the sidebar here, or go into patient order.
Okay, good question. On the sidebar here on the left, that's if you want to view past frame-only orders. To create a brand new order, we have to click on the patient order button.
Okay.
Good question. Very, very good question. Anybody else have any questions or clarifications they want to make? Okay. So once I click frame-only order and hit the green check mark, the system is going to basically get set up with an order form. We will process, and this is going to be really repetitive for the next hour, but you guys will kind of get the hang of it after you see it a few times. We start at the top and move our way down. This patient wasn't seen by a doctor. It doesn't matter which provider you guys will select. So you will have to select a provider and you will have to enter a diagnosis. This is just standard information. It doesn't matter which diagnosis code you enter here, it just has to be a valid ICD-10 code. So what I always do, because it's the one I have memorized, I've always memorized bilateral myopia. So you'll select one of the doctors and in diagnosis, you'll add whatever ICD-10 code. If you aren't sure or don't have one that you have memorized, H52.13 is a standard diagnosis code. This doesn't go anywhere. It's not being filed on any type of a claim, but the system does require it to be filled out. From the top there, order ID, date entered, last updated, and service date, those all get filled out for you, so you don't have to do anything for that. So under the first red bar, order information, all you have to do is enter provider and diagnosis code. So far, so good? Okay. The next...
Just a second.
The provider code, so we have to pick which doctor they see, correct? And how will we know that?
Well, if they're not seeing one of our doctors, you just pick one. It doesn't matter.
I know, but if they are seeing our doctor, it goes over.
Okay, she's asking if they see one of our doctors, how do we know which one they saw here?
That will come over. Yes, so we haven't gotten that far yet. That's a great question, and I'll show you that when that comes over. Yep, I will show you how you can see that. For right now, this is the one where they just walk in off the street. They didn't get seen by a doctor. Okay. The next red bar is patient information. This is already filled out. So you don't have to do anything under the patient information section. Just below that is RX information. We selected a frame-only order. There's no RX information to be entered here, so it's all grayed out. Same with lens information. We aren't ordering any type of lenses, so this is all grayed out. Then down at the bottom, the last section is frame information. This is the section that we will be using because this is a frame-only order. So at this point, we'll hit this little frame icon. You guys can use your barcode scanner to just buzz in the frame, and I don't have them here. So I'm just going to search for one that I have. Now you will either scan in the frame with the barcode, or you can search it by the name, just like you guys do for inventory. It's the same screen, and find it. Then it will pull up here on the screen. So everything that you entered in inventory, the name of the frame, the material, the CPT code, the price, the manufacturer, and all the measurements all pull into the bottom. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we're going to click to the right, the charges screen. And I'm just going to kind of show you how this works so that you can see that it comes over. And I have tax activated here. So basically what's going to happen is that on the front page, so you can see there's two pages, and I'm just going to flip back and forth so you can see. Page 1 includes that balance or the order information, the patient, the RX and lenses, and the frame. And then page 2 is the charges screen. So page 2 is probably not going to be anything that you guys handle. you guys are probably going to do everything under page 1. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So how this will work is once you have that frame attached, you can see that there will be a line item, and mine's going to keep calculating tax. So I'm just going to keep unchecking tax to show you. But this frame was $175. That was what was built in the background. So at this point, they are ready to go to the front desk. All you have to do is hit Save Charges. This order is saved. And now when they go out to the front desk can find this order. So I'm going to click under Frame Only. They can view it, and they'll check out there to say, I got this frame. Here it is. They'll double-click the order, and they'll see exactly what you entered. And they will go in and they will take a payment, process the payment, and send the patient on their way. Now the question that we have in here is, do you want front desk to dispense the frame at the time they check the patient out, or do you want to dispense it before you send them to front desk?
If they're just coming in to get sunglasses off the street, we'd probably just dispense that as we send them up there.
Okay. So
We'll dispense that.
okay. And then the other ones, are we waiting to dispense those for when they pick them up? Or when they get sent to lab? Okay, awesome. So for this one right here, first of all, before we get to that step, does anybody have any questions on how we entered this order? And we'll do a couple more, but how we basically just hit save and then we sent them to front desk?
That makes sense. I think we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
Dispensing is right here on the right. Now, when you first did this and you added the frame, this dispense information wasn't here. And you would have to go to the charges screen and come back to get it. If you want to skip that step, you can hit the save button, and then this is the edit button at the top, and that will actually create the dispense frame information screen here. So to dispense, you'll click the dispense/return frame button, and it will say, are you sure you want to dispense the frame attached to this order? When you click yes, the frame has been dispensed from this invoice that you would have scanned in, and all that does is go from on hand 1 to on hand 0, and that's as easy as it is. Now it's out of your inventory. And then at this point, you can search for the next patient. Should we go through and do another one of those from start to finish again?
Yes, please.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to go back to demographics to search for a patient, and the reason I'm doing it that way is because that is the way my brain works, and that's how I've always done it. So however, you guys can stay on that screen and search if you want, but I have kind of my own habits formed of how I do things, so I always make sure it's the right patient. So I'm going to pull up Stephanie FoxFire, and I'm going to walk through this, and I'm just going to kind of go through the same flow. So I have Stephanie pulled up. I'm going to go to orders. She wants to purchase just a frame. So I'm going to click patient order. And then I have to tell the system that I want to create a new order. So I'm going to click the blue plus sign. And because I'm not getting lenses, I'm just getting a frame, I'm going to select frame only order and hit the green check mark. Once it's ready to go, I'll select a provider and enter a diagnosis code. Then I move down in reading order. Patient information is here. Don't have to do anything there. Don't have to do anything with RX. Don't have to do anything with lenses, but I do have to add the frame and find it in inventory. So again, you guys can scan with the barcodes that you guys are printing on the labels. I'm just going to hit the green check because I don't know which ones of these I have left. There we go. I'll find my frame. Material isn't coming over for me because I didn't add it during my process of adding inventory. You guys shouldn't have that. So here's the frame that this patient wants to purchase. I can hit the save button, and then if I want to just go ahead and dispense it right here, I can hit the edit button. Now save, as you can see, I can't click or change anything. If I want to reopen the order so I can dispense with that button, I have to hit the edit button, and that is the little white piece of paper with the pencil. I come down to right where it says dispense/return frame and hit this, and it says, are you sure you want to dispense? And yes, I do. And I always go to page 2. You guys, this isn't a required step, but again, this is the habit I've formed to make sure that the frame line is in there. Hit save charges, and then I send them to front desk.
So if you hit save on page 1, it'll save those charges?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Great question. So if you guys don't even want to move to page 2, you just want to hit save here. The charge is up at the top, so that $2.99, as long as you see that because it was attached to the frame, you don't even have to go to page 2.
Okay.
Yep, great question. So we're going to do this, and we can just use this same patient. That's totally fine. I'm going to give keyboard and mouse control, and I'm just going to have, if we want one person to drive, that's fine. But that way, somebody gets the hands-on, and we'll just do a frame-only order. So I'm actually just going to start you from demographics. And we'll just have you, I lied, I'm going to make you search for a patient. So who wants to drive?
Kelly's going to.
Awesome.
Yes, she's already taken the patient for you.
Go ahead. There's a bun.
Or any of them. Yeah.
These actually have to be ICD-10 codes. That's why I want you to actually type in that H52.13, because these up here are ICD-9s. So there you go. And then any of these, it doesn't matter which one. So if you type in H, yeah, it doesn't matter which one. Now you guys could just scan your barcode. Mine isn't going to have that, so just hit the green check. What that does is it searches for all of the frames in my inventory, and I want you to scroll till you find one that has at least one on hand. Perfect. So that one came down, and anything that isn't filled out needs to be filled out. So material, let's go ahead and add that one. Okay.
Okay, so we have to fill out the material because that wasn't in there. So go up here and hit save.
Remember, you have to edit if you're going to dispense it from here.
Right.
Yep, good. Now mine's adding a tax line. Yours won't do that, but yeah, if you uncheck tax, that goes away. Yep. And then save charges.
Is it always going to come up with the tax check?
No, that's my demo database. I have mine showing tax for the last demo I did. They did tax and everything. So this is not your database.
Is that a switch in ours, like, so the sunglasses will be taxed, but the regular ones won't be?
There
or
is
do
a
we have
setup
to
in
hit
the background. Yeah, if we need to tax sunglasses, I can go ahead and put tax on sunglasses.
Okay.
What percentage do you tax?
Yeah, we'll have to look at, it's 9 point something, we can look at.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, let me know so I can set that up. Okay. Does anybody else want to do a frame-only order?
Jackie wants to.
Okay, sounds good. Let's go ahead and let's actually search for a new patient. So go to, if you want to go to demographics, that's where you can hit that little search man if that's who you're looking for. Yep. And then there was two ways to search. You can either double click in the account number field or you can hit the little search icon. And then any patient in here you can use. FoxFire is just an easy one that we use because we all know that they're...
Jackie, you're not going to be in there.
So we're going to have to know what patient can get on.
So, Morgan,
Yeah.
we're used to using a patient traffic controller. So if somebody comes in off the street like this to get a frame, they're checked in, we know what they're here for, and we can just grab them. I realize we don't have that option here, but how are we going to know what patient we have if we don't have something like that to help us?
Sure. We did talk about this, and one of the things that we came up with was we were going to create an optical calendar so that when they came and checked in, it wasn't like they were being scheduled, but they were going to be put on the calendar in the order that they came in. So that we can't set up until after the conversion is done because I can't get into the calendar. But that was one of the things that we talked about that would work. And then what we'll do is when I get there on Monday, I'll show you how you can see who it is and what patient they are.
Okay.
Yep.
What do you need? Yeah, from you guys. That's what she said. They're able to plan. Exactly. Real dedicated people.
That was mine.
So if you saved, you have to edit before you can move anywhere else. And that's that little piece of paper with the pencil. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Turn dark when you back in.
Or you go before you hit save.
So if we want to dispense, we go down to the bottom where it says dispense. Yep. And then, yep. And there's our charge. So then we would just hit save. On the right-hand side, there's a button that says Save Charges.
So we finished with all this. We want to print this order. We just go to print?
Yeah, if you want to print this one, now this isn't the one you'd give the patient, but if you just want it for your records, then you could hit the print button.
We'll get into that when we do an actual lab order.
Yeah, when you get to an actual lab order where you want to print like the lens orders and the lab order, then we'll show you what you'll print for that one. For this one, because it's frame only, we wouldn't want to give anybody a receipt that says they have a charge but no payments. So this one, the front desk would actually take care of payments and printing the receipt. Okay. Any other questions on the frame only orders? Okay.
I think so.
So I'm going to go ahead and then do the next one. The next one is going to be a quote order. So what we're going to do is just kind of put together a little storyline so it makes sense. We're going to do James FoxFire comes into the office and he is seen by the doctor and he's given a new prescription. When he comes out of the doctor's office, he goes to Optical and he picks out a frame and he sits down with you and he's ready to get his lenses set up. He's ready to get an order. So here's the process that we're going to do for this one. We're going to search for a patient. The process of that has not changed. So I'm still going to click on orders. Oh, there's a little pop-up there. Now this time, because the patient has seen the doctor and because he's coming to Optical after that, the doctor has already sent an order to you. So there's already been a quote order started. So rather than creating a brand new order where we'd have to manually type in the RX, we're going to go to quotes. Anytime that the patient is seen by the doctor and gets a new prescription, the doctor sends, in the background, sends a quote order over from the ERX or from the HR. Now, please know that this patient I work on every single day, and so there's a lot of quotes in here. Yours will have one, maybe two, depending on how many the doctor sends over, and it will just look like line 47. It'll say quote, there'll be no location, but this is where you will see what doctor sent it over. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to find the one from today, and I don't have any from today, but all you're going to do is double click it. It's telling you this is an RX order from the EHR. Please select a lab from the list. Once a lab is selected and saved, it cannot be changed later. So we're going to hit OK. This is the list of labs that we built before. So you guys will have those Vision Web labs where you entered those treatments. You'll select which lab you want to go through. Now, I need to work this screen from top to bottom because that's how we always do it. We'll start at the top left and just go like we were reading. But you're going to notice I can't change anything in here because I have to hit the edit button first. So all my fields open up. So now I'm going to walk through this with you exactly in the order that we had before. So the first thing you're going to notice is the screen looks pretty similar to what we did before, but there's a couple extra pieces of information across the top. The best thing to do is start at the top left and just move left to right, left to right, left to right. So the order type is RX, that came over from the doctor. Order status, this stays as a quote until we're ready to send it to the lab. And we'll talk about that. That's actually the very last thing we do. We chose a lab at the beginning. Once you change this, or once you add your lab and you hit save, you can't change it. You'd have to start the order over. So just be mindful of that. Edge and package, if you enter them, are here. These are not requirements, but they are here. So if I do an edge and mount, and it's just a prescription lens, the provider is already there. So if Dr. Newland saw this patient, he's going to be here. If Dr. Gilmore saw it, he's going to be here. There's nothing that you have to enter in here. But then you'll just go in and enter that standard basic diagnosis code.
Will the diagnosis be on there if our doctor saw them?
Not for the RX. It will be on there for doctor charges that the front desk does. You guys will still always order the enter the H52.13.
So will they have a diagnosis to choose from that we put in there, or this is totally separate from the EHR part?
This is completely separate from EHR. When EHR charges are sent, the diagnosis codes that the doctor attaches are on those charges. This one is just an optical order. So the lab doesn't care what the diagnosis is. This only gets sent to the lab, and our system just requires it to be filled out.
Does your system file for IMED and VSP for us?
No. IMED and VSP don't allow any type of electronic claims through clearinghouses. You still go online to file those claims.
Okay.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
Nope, it doesn't matter. All right, any questions on these top drop downs? Okay. The next one is the patient information section. Patients showing up, just make sure it's the person in front of you. RX information, this is already filled out. What needs to be filled out is PD. Please know that at this time, PDs do not come over from the EHR. You will have to measure and enter PDs. So I'm just going to plug in some numbers here. You have your prisms. If there is a prism, if there's an add power, all of that is going to come in from the EHR. The only thing you will have to enter is PDs and lens CPTs. Okay, so I have this from the EHR, nothing I need to do there. I enter my PDs, which shows up as distance, and then the CPT code for what type of lenses you're going to sell them. So these are usually V codes. You know, we have our single vision, progressive, whatever. I'm just going to do a single vision lens. If I'm selling them 2 single vision lenses, I can copy ODRX to OS. So copy the right eye to the left eye with this little black arrow, or I can add it again. So whenever you use these drop downs, the very top is a search field. If I want to search a CPT code, I can type in here. If I want to search a description, I type in the next one. If the doctor sent over notes for you, like things that they discussed in the office that they want to have, if they want to have polycarb, if they want to, make sure they talk about anti-reflective and glare and scratch coats, things that they may have discussed, if the doctor wants to enter that, and the doctor may actually put PDs under remarks, and I think actually they'll have to put PDs under remarks because I think in Kansas it's required to be printed on the RXs, you will find it under this remarks field. And now that I think back, yes, PDs will be there, so you just have to enter them in here. So I can't free type in there, but it'll say PD and then whatever the PD is. Questions on this RX information section?
On the V codes, are they already going to be in for us to pick from?
Yes.
Did you hear?
Yeah, I can hear a little bit. Yes, all of the CPT codes, your V codes, those will already be in there. I'm handling, most of it's already done in the background, but I'm handling all of that for you to make sure that everything is already in there. Yep.
So all we're entering is the treatments from our individual labs. Is that what we're doing?
Not necessarily, but we'll get down to VisionWeb here. You still have to enter in, so here's your job type. Is it uncut, frame to come, supply frame, or lenses? The type of lens, so I'm going to just do a single vision. And then you select your lens design and lens material. This VisionWeb information section is the same as the VisionWeb online. It's just those fields have been integrated into the system, so it's exactly like what you enter online. So you will choose the lens design from this list here. When you find the lens design you want, it will give you the available, the available lens materials. So you would find whichever material that you want. Once you have those things selected, just like you do on the VisionWeb site, and I'm just going to find like a polycarb clear. Oops. And if I did this wrong, like I picked transition, I can just hit reset. And if I want to look for polycarb clear, I just go through the list, and then I want this to be in whatever I have over here. Then you select the treatments, and these are treatments that you have built or built in the background. Now, I don't, sorry?
That's what I was talking about. We have to build those.
Yeah, you have to build these, yep. Now, if you select one, like in this case, this treatment that I have doesn't exist with this combination. So I'm just going to try to find one that does. There's one. If they work, they just go to the right-hand side, and whatever prices you had attached to them get added to the order. So you can add whatever treatments you are adding onto for the patient. Just below there then, this is a section for treatment comments to lab. So if you have different notes you want to add for treatments only, that goes in the treatment comments to lab, and it says only for treatments right on it. And then if you have special instructions, and the lab reads this section, so you would just enter in whatever special instructions you have.
Right, right.
And then down below here is the same thing that we just did. The difference here is that if the patient has their own frame, you just have to type in this information manually. Otherwise, you just select it from your inventory. Fill in, like in this case, I did a really bad job. I didn't fill in any of this information when I was putting it into my inventory. I just was lazy about it. So if I select the wrong one, that's no problem. All I have to do is just select a different one. I guess I don't have any in there. Okay. So I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to hit edit. So anytime you hit save, it's best to just hit edit. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to go to the charges screen, because on this one, you guys will have to make sure that everything you're billing the patient for is in here. So starting at the top, here's the frame, here's your 2 lenses, here's my scratch coding, and then I have my sales tax. If there is a line item that didn't come over, like if it wasn't on the treatment section, because what's coming over here is the CPT code, I'm just going to go backwards, is the CPT codes here and the treatments here. So if you're going to bill for additional items, you will have to add them on this screen. So before I show you how to do that part, does anyone have any questions on how to search for the patient, find the quote from today, and fill this first form out?
I think they're okay for now.
Okay.
The lens type is single vision, but you picked the design of a flat top. Is it going to let you continue because it doesn't have an add power?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not an optician, so I don't know the difference between those two. If the lab doesn't allow it, I will get an error from the lab, but not at this point.
Okay.
So what'll happen, and I'll just kind of show you, there's a lab button here. When I click lab, if the lab says, hey, this isn't going to work, it'll tell you. Now, when we do it in practicing today, it's not going to give me an error because I don't have a lab attached to it. I can't really send this to a lab. It's a demo system, but yours will. So yeah, if things don't match up, it's going to alert you, hey, you can't send this.
Okay, so Morgan, are you saying that we get through this whole order and realize we picked the wrong lab, we have to start all over again?
Yes. Once it's saved, and that's what that pop-up at the very beginning is once you select a lab and save it, it cannot be changed later. And I'll show you how to copy it so that you can select a new lab. That's just with this button. So you don't necessarily have to start from scratch, but this order can't be changed once it's saved. Because if you switch labs, this vision web information, all that's different as well. Because this catalog that I'm looking at and these selections are specific to this lab. So if you were to switch lab, the whole catalog has to change. So it's going to need a new order to gather a new catalog.
So if we do that, how do you delete the order?
Can you delete it?
Yes, you can delete it, and I will show you that. Yep.
Because we do buy stock lenses for our single vision patients and do them in-house.
Okay.
But we don't know sometimes parameters. I mean, we have to look all that stuff up before we put this order on. So we're just trying to figure out how to do that.
If somebody asked a question, I didn't hear it. Sorry.
Hey, Morgan, this is Craig. I have a question.
Sure.
I thought my training was at 1:30 today, but on the email it said 3 o'clock.
I have it on the calendar at 3, but if you want to do like your training at 1:30, we can just move it up. That's fine. I can just send you a new one. Yeah, of course I can. There you go.
Okay.
I just resent it. Easy peasy.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, no problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this first page before I get you over to the second page?
I don't think so. Not yet.
Okay. So when I go to the second page, you'll just make sure that each line item is here with the cost that you're charging them. And like in this case, scratch coding isn't built in, so I would have to just add a fee. And that's what I did here. Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm having to put a charge on those, so they should be built in.
Say that again. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing everybody.
Sorry, they were just asking if we were going to have to do that every time, but
Oh,
we
no.
build our treatment, putting
Yep.
the charges in
Yeah.
there.
The treatments, when you build those, they'll automatically be in, and then for all of like the V codes and everything on the basic fee schedule, those will be built in too. If there's ever one that you see that is 0, write it down and let me know, because we will make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Okay.
Okay. So the next thing is if I need to add a line item that isn't already here. And I'm actually just going to take off this text quick. That's all you have to do there is just hit the add charge. When you hit add charge, it just creates an additional line item. What you need to do whenever you add a new charge is go to the procedure drop-down. This is a list of all of the different possible things you could charge them for. So in this case, let's just say that I'm going to put anti-reflective. You would normally put that on as a treatment, but I'm just going to use it as an example for how to add a charge. So I'm going to put anti because I don't maybe have the V code memorized. So I would go to procedure and I would select the V code, and then of course yours would have a fee built into it, and I'm just going to throw some numbers together. So basically what you would do is just make sure that the order that you are creating for the patient has everything you need to bill them for. This one is necessary for you. You have to hit save charges here. If you don't hit save charges, any of the work that you would have done to add additional charges or line items, that is automatically going to go away. So it's really important that you can never save too much. Now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go back to the order screen. So you could do all that first, or you could do it, I always do my charges and then I come back to send my lab order. To send this order to the lab, under the order status, you're going to tell the system that this is going to the lab. So at lab, and when you do this, there's a lab button that pops up on the right-hand side. Clicking this lab button will tell you if anything is missing. So in this case, it highlighted that my brand was missing for my frame. It'll tell you if something doesn't match. It'll tell you if something can't be sent, if something doesn't exist, if something is wrong. When you hit the lab button, mine says unsuccessful because VW demo is not a real lab and it's not hooked to anything. Yours is going to be hooked to your actual lab. So yours will say lab order was sent successfully. It will give you the time and date that it was transmitted, and it will provide you with a tracking number. Once that's sent to the lab, this lab button turns to a button that says track. And it has the lab information above it. So it'll say the date and time it was transmitted. It'll have the tracking number. And then when you click on the button that says track, it'll tell you the status of your order. So you actually never need to leave this screen to transmit an order to your Vision Web Lab. It's all built right into this screen. Okay. And I'm going to see, I might have an example of that, but I'm going to just double check. What questions do you have about that part?
Okay, can you just run it through it? I was trying to write notes down.
That's okay.
Okay. Like, start at order status again?
Start sending
Yes.
it to the lab again.
Okay, sounds good. So let me go back to quote. So you have found the patient, you found the quote, and you entered everything that you needed to enter. So you went to the charges screen. Oh, it's not going to let me change it back. That's okay. And you added any additional line items that you may have needed, and you hit save. Then order status will show on both screens, but you can only change order status on the main screen. And when you get there, under order status, it started as quote, and you're going to select the one that says at lab. When you select the button that says at lab, on the right-hand side, this little gray lab button is going to appear. When you're ready, you're going to click this lab button, and a pop-up is going to show up that says lab order sending successful, the date and time that it was sent, and the tracking number that you will use to track that order. Then you can exit out, and then this lab button, it won't say lab anymore. It's actually going to say track, and I'm actually looking in the background, I'm looking for an example of that right now. And then you will be able to track this order at any given time. So if you want to say, okay, well, what's the status of that order that I sent? You would be able to go into the patient's account and search for their orders over here on the left. And it would tell you what the tracking number is. It would tell you what the order status is. And I'm going to look for that right now. See if I have an example. Okay, here's a good one. Okay, this is a live order with one of, okay, so of course it went away as soon as I, shoot, all orders. Let me look at, I'm just going to see if there's an example of one in here. Well, shoot, I had one up, and then when I moved it over, it went away. Hold on. Okay. While I'm looking for that, what questions do you guys have?
Okay, tell me one more time on the left side there, the frame only. What does that mean?
Frame only, on the left-hand side, this is where you can view their frame only orders.
Okay.
Okay.
On the drop-down labs, if we're going to do it in-house,
Are we going to have that option?
Yep, you will have that option. Let me pull up an all orders one. If you do it in-house, each of these sections needs to be built. So you'll have to build different ones, and we'll take a look at that on Monday once I can actually get into your database. Let me just see if I can change one of these. I don't know if I can. Hold on. That one might be saved already. Okay, so if you do in-house, you'll be able to do that, but each lens style, material, color, it's the same thing, but this will just look different because you have to build each individual section. Now this won't have a lab button or anything. You would just change it to @lab, and then it won't send anywhere. It'll just show you that it's being worked on, or it was dispensed or picked up, or whatever it was. I want to go through and just take a look at your in-house lab and see, and actually on Friday, I may be able to help you if we didn't get the styles and materials in just yet, to just build that, but it's the same process exactly. It just looks a little bit different. Okay. What other questions?
Hold on, we're discussing. Okay, we're good.
Okay, so the next one I'm going to show you, this is probably the majority of what you're going to do. The next one that I'm going to show you is if a patient walks in with a paper RX. Everything we've done is exactly the same. The only difference is instead of this RX information showing up, you'll just have to type it in. So I'm going to go back to demographics, and I'm going to switch patients quick. So I'm going to search for, okay, so on this one, they didn't see the doctor. They just want to fill their frames and lenses. So if they didn't see the doctor, where do we go to start an order?
You're sounding a little bit like a robot right now.
Okay, let me know when you can hear me better.
That's better at the moment.
Can you hear me better now?
A little bit.
Okay, can you make out what I'm saying?
yes.
Okay. So where do we go if the patient's just walking in off the street, they have a paper RX, they didn't get seen by the doctor, where do we go to start a brand new order? Okay, so I went and I
Patient.
searched my patient and I clicked on orders. Okay, good. So now from this order screen, how do I start a new order?
Hit the patient order.
Good, perfect. Okay, so I got that. And the blue plus sign. Yep, good. Now, if this patient is filling an RX and they're getting a frame, which of these types of orders am I going to select?
Quote.
Very good. Now you're going to see, and I'm going to select my Vision Web. It's the only one I have built in my demo. But we just start at the top, and they say it's an RX that we're filling. And if you want to do Edge and Package, you can. We select any provider and enter our diagnosis. So that's what I was kind of telling you is repetitive. These pieces don't change regardless of the type of order. You have the patient details here. The only difference is that here you just have to free type whatever is on their RX. And then I'm going to sell them, let's just do another single vision. So maybe I search for single vision. And I'm just going to drop it down because I'm going to sell them the same one. And then I just go here, I'm going to send the frame to the lab. And I'm going to do a single vision lens. And then I'm going to search for my design or material first. It doesn't matter which one. So I'll do single vision. And on my material, I'm going to do plastic. And if I'm going to add treatments, I just click them in here. And I don't know which ones I have built for this particular lab. I should probably get in there and do them, but I think I had polish edge I can do. I'm just going to add a couple if I can find a few more that will work. Scratch coat, and we'll just do those two. Then I find my frame. So I click into my inventory. This is where that barcode comes in handy. And then I find my frame and I fill in the frame type. And yours should all have the brands, but I do a bad job adding inventory, so I'm just going to grab anything. And from here, I can you can save and then you can edit to go back, or you can just click to the charges screen. And I just make sure each line item is in there. So frame, my lens, my other lens. Here's my treatments and my scratch. Sales tax will automatically always show up at the bottom if any of your CPT codes are set to tax. Okay, so here I'm going to hit Save Charges because I want to make sure that everything looks the way it needs to. And I'm going to go back to page 1. So when I'm ready, I'm going to tell the system that I'm going to send this to the lab. So I'm going to click at lab. My lab button appears on the right-hand side, and I click on it. And then, of course, yours says successful or please change blah, 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 or can't send for whatever reason. And then that turns to the track button, which I'm looking, I have to go into a live database and I can't find one right off the top of my head that I can find. So, report. So let's do Michael Miller or Becky Eason.
Morgan, they had a question real quick.
Sure.
If we have lens bundles or discounts we're adding where we're discounting something for the patient, we just add a line item, add a charge, and put that in there? right now.
If you're discounting, anything, that will actually be taken off under payments. You don't want to add a line item for a discount. Line items are going to be for charges. So are you guys applying the discounts to each line item, or is the front desk doing that?
Well, that's what we need to know.
We have been.
You have been. Okay. So then what you would do, and I can show you how to do that. So before we do that extra part, is everybody good on adding the quote and the one from the doctor and the frame onlys?
I think so.
Awesome. Okay, so let's say on this one that this patient has, like if we do a VSP, so they get a certain amount that they have like a discount on, or you guys have a package that I'm going to take maybe $10 off of a certain line item. You click on the payments button, and that brings up a separate screen. Now you guys are only adjusting off if you have like discounts running, correct?
Well, the vision savings plans and
Well, that's,
contact lens wearers get discounts.
and the contact lenses will go through the front desk, but for like but for the VSP, like if they say, if their plan, okay, so there's a $259 frame, and they are only responsible for, let's say, $110 of it, we should just be paying $110 and sending the rest to insurance, correct? So you're not adjusting anything off of that? Okay. So the adjustments that are taken off, you guys take off an optical, and then the front desk doesn't do that part? Because the front desk will apply their payments based on their VSP, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say there was like a second pair discount that you guys apply that front desk doesn't. You would just put in, we'd start at the top. So I'm just going to do $10 off. Now when you're making this adjustment, it's not a payment. So the extra option under here is adjustments. Then all of the different adjustment codes that you guys have will be listed here. Those have already been built in the background. So I'm going to just do second pair discounts. And I'm going to tell the system this is a $10 discount. So it's just checks and balances. And then if I'm taking off $10 off of the frame, I just highlight or click the frame option and hit apply. And then what it did is it took the $259 charge, took off a $10 discount, and left it at $249 left.
That's pretty cool.
Okay. Do you guys want to go ahead and drive on a couple and just kind of toot around for the next 15 minutes that we have?
You guys want to try one? We're discussing, I'm sorry. Hang on.
No problem.
We either have to have a breakdown or we have to go in and do it.
I think we're just trying to figure out about with the discount.
That's okay. That's no problem at all. While you guys discuss, I do have to step away for just a second. I'll be right back. And you do have keyboard and mouse if you do want to buzz around in there, but I'll be back in less than a minute.
I mean,
I'm back if you guys need anything from me.
We're still.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Nope, no problem at all.
I think right now we're just kind of talking out different scenarios. Maybe
Okay.
we're going to have to write questions for you for when you get here. So
Sure.
exactly.
And you guys will have, we'll be releasing, like right now you're only able to do inventory. The conversion though will be done soon. You'll have Friday because everybody will be there Friday. Friday is going to be a good day to go in and practice. So I will send out an email. You'll get a notification that you can now get into the system. And as long as you use the Fox, like practice on patients that have the last name FoxFire, you can't break the system. You just go in and you can even send to your labs, and I encourage it, and just call them or put on that test or put on this, like when you send, just put test, do not process, just things like that. And the lab won't send anything. They won't create anything, but at least you can see what it looks like all the way through, or call the lab and say, hey, we're going to send orders through with the last name FoxFire, just don't process them. That's really, really common that most clients do to practice with. But you will have, and I would jot down those scenarios and just try to work them out, Friday when you have time with no patients, to just go through and hammer out each scenario you can think of. And then, like you said, on Monday, I'll be there and we'll go through those as well.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. I will just have a session with the doctor here from 1:30 to 2:30, and then after that, my day is basically just prepping your guys' database on my end. So if you think of something that you need, call me. After 2:30, I will be available, and if I'm not, I will be able to call you right back.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you.
Yep, and I'll get this video on your website. Give me maybe 15 minutes to get it up there, okay?
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, bye.